Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Adam Schefter. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Aaron, my pleasure, my honor. Hope everything's going well.
Everything is going great. It's the off season for the NFL, which means that the Jets aren't losing, so everything is going great for me.
There you go. Well, the off season, there is no off season in the NFL. The off season is the regular season. The regular season is really the off season, and on it goes with the relentless lifestyle that the NFL is.
And that's exactly a perfect segue into Keep Hustling. You are the ultimate hustler. Even in your bio, it says that you are the man who coined the two cell phones, cell phone on screen. You might break news right here while we're on this. So where does that drive, that relentless drive for hustle come from?
It's a good question, Aaron. And I would say to you that it's just a professional pride. It's a caring. It's a competitive drive. Where does an athlete get the will to fight through would-be tacklers or to get that extra yard at the goal line? Like, everybody has something like that in a different way. Mine's not physical at all, to compel them to push forward and to continue to try to work hard and to do things that you wouldn't think are possible or that you're capable of. And again, it's just, you know what, my job matters to me more than it probably should. It's important to me. And when you're asking about that drive or competitiveness or whatever it is, it just comes from within, and it's hard to describe for anybody how whatever they're doing, where that spark comes from, but it's there, it's real, and it allows you to do the job that you do in any field.
I assume that you meet a lot of young reporters or people that want to get to your level of success. Is it something that you can feel or see or intuit when you meet someone, if they have that spark, or don't?
I think it shows up over time in a consistent effort, and you can see it in a certain way. And the way that I like to think of it is, to me, that there are people in the industry, and probably any industry, but I know this one, there are people who get it and there are people who don't get it. And they fall into two categories, really. And this is a job, and I think it's true of any job in this day and age. Like, you bring up the two phones, and I do believe, again, I was bringing them on TV before anybody was bringing them on TV. But there are a lot of people now who are on their phones, a lot of people who live their job. Like, you have to, in this or any line of work, you have to live the job. It has to be a part of what you do and who you are. You can't do the job 9 to 5, 5 days a week. You can't kind of do it. You have to be in it. There's no halfway to it. And for better or worse, I'm in it. And being in it requires being on constantly and not knowing when the next thing will happen. And that's sort of the way the job works.
I 100% agree with you. It's interesting. My father, he should rest in peace, started our business and was in the insurance business. Literally his last week when he was in a hospital, he was sending emails. And some people think that's crazy, but in the end of the day, if you live it and you breathe it and you believe in it, then you may not be a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic or a heart surgeon, but yet you believe that you provide value. I just think that so many people don't get that, and it's hard to instill it in people.
Yeah. Again, if your job matters to you, you live it. It just becomes a part of who you are. And, I've talked to a lot of people, like, again, this job never ends. There are calls that come in on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday night or whenever it would be. But you know what? There are plenty of people in plenty of lines of work that are getting calls also with work issues on Saturday afternoon or Sunday night as well. I'm not the only one, but it just so happens that my job plays out publicly on social media or on ESPN or whatever it may be. So people see it. They don't see people getting calls in their house on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday night or a holiday or whatever it may be. But it's more visible with what I do and what others do. And so because of that, people notice it a little bit more. But there are a lot of people who do that. A lot of people who sacrifice a lot to put in the time that they do to try to do the job that they do.
And speaking of people that sacrifice to be associated with crazy hustlers like you, who I aspire to be, I didn't mean you're crazy. I just meant the hustle is inspirational. I don't usually ask this, but I have to ask you because I know that you are incredibly devoted to your wife and to your family. How does that work with everything you're saying, being on and answering those calls on a Saturday? How do you balance that? I'm a father of five and a
Five.
husband, five, 4 daughters and 1 son.
How old are the 5?
12, 12 and a half, almost 10. My 1 son is 7.5, 4.5, and 14 months.
Wow, we have 5 dogs, not 5 kids. We have 2 kids and 5 dogs, and you got 5 kids. That's admirable, Aaron. That's pretty cool.
I married very well.
Well, good for you. People always are looking for that secretive answer on life-work balance, and the truth of the matter is, there really is none. You need a job that understands that you have family commitments, and you need a family that understands you have job commitments, and it's up to you to figure out, okay, there are times at work that are busier than others, and there are times with family that require your attention. And all you can do is do the best job you can, trying to juggle it, balance it, figure it out to try to make it work. It's not always easy, not a simple thing to get done. I think you never fully master it. It's impossible to fully master. But there are times you feel better about it. Like, as an example, my daughter wanted to go to this concert that's coming up soon. I got tickets for it for her and her cousins. So we're talking about, it's in New York City. It's a whole ordeal. Only my wife or I could go, and she wasn't really that thrilled about going into the city late night, dogs at home. We got sick dogs, the whole thing. I'm like, I'll go. And so on an upcoming Saturday, I'll spend the day in the city with my daughter at this concert that night. That's the way it'll be, right? Like, what am I going to do? And by the way, I look forward to it because it'll be a magical memory. But I would not have been able to do that concert, let's just say, a few weeks back during free agency. That would be very hard for me to do, to take a full day. So in a way, I want to try to make the moments that I have with her special and stand out when I can, because I'm not always available. But when I am, you try to make it count and you try to make the most of it, if that makes any sense.
And I love the fact that you will be at a concert. The guy who hangs out with NFL players all the time and talks to them is going to be at a concert with his daughter and her cousin. I love that.
Well, there are a lot of people there. I mean, again, it's people like to go to concerts. I'm going to go to the concert, and that'll be the way it is.
That's awesome. We like to ask our guests about the most difficult moment in their career and how they hustled through that or pushed through that. I imagine you've had, everyone has a journey, and your journey getting to this moment, the guy on ESPN who every single teenage and adult sports fan looks forward to hearing from, hopefully to the positive of their team, but we never know. What was the most pivotal or difficult moment in your career, and how did you push through that?
I mean, I think there are many moments along the course of anybody's career that become pivotal. And I just think back to the journey and the fight to try to get my first job as a sports reporter, newspaper sports reporter, which took 2 years. And that was incredibly difficult until the Rocky Mountain News in September of 1990 hired me, and I moved out to Colorado when I was 23 years old, not knowing anybody or anything, and just moved out there by myself. Like that was pivotal. It was pivotal when I left the Rocky Mountain News to go to work for the Denver Post about 6 years later. That was pivotal. It was pivotal when my contract was expiring at the Denver Post and the NFL Network stepped in and offered me a job to be their first insider. Like, that was pivotal too. It was pivotal when my deal was up there that ESPN came along and hired me away. That was pivotal too. It was pivotal when they put me on Sunday Count. Like, these are the moments that instantly come to my mind. I can't tell you that one's any more important than the other. I know to get to this spot, there was so much rejection along the way. So many times somebody said no. So many times that you thought that you weren't making progress or it wasn't happening. So many setbacks, so much discouragement, so many obstacles. This spot that I'm at now, it only took me 35 years to get here, right? So people see the job now. You're saying, people, want to do that job or watch that job, and they don't know what went into the job to get here, and they don't know what it's like to be in the job and to live that life and to sacrifice the things you do. And by the way, like, I'm blessed and privileged and wouldn't want it any other way, and I'm so thankful to have a dream job. But I'm just telling you, it's not easy to get here. It's not easy to stay here. It's not easy to live the life. It's not easy to have that balance. And that's why they call it work, right?
I think someone said that overnight success is created over a number of years.
Yeah, that's true.
What was it like when the NFL called? and then ESPN. I assume the NFL was the original goal, and then ESPN kind of, when you become a football sports reporter, I assume that the NFL is the ultimate.
Well, actually, when they called in 2004, when they were starting NFL Network, that was not a slam dunk decision at all, because I had spent my college career studying newspaper writers, magazine writers, writing in general, and reporting, and I loved that. That was my first love. And newspaper people back in the day looked down on TV people. It's just the way that it was. And so here you had a chance to go into TV, which was, I think, back then in the early 2000s, frowned upon a little bit. Plus, to do it for a league-owned network, which was something that nobody aspired really to do. I didn't aspire to go work for a league-owned network. That was not something I wanted to do. And there were people, as I was truly vacillating over the decision, who were people whose opinion I respected and trusted. They're like, "Yeah, don't give up everything that you work for in newspapers to go to work at some startup legal network. That's a bad move." Like, I could think of people who said that to me, direct voices, and they were very adamant about that. And again, it just goes to show you that there are various points in your life that you have to go with your gut and do what you feel is best, and keep your fingers crossed and just hope it works out the way that it does. And that one did, but it was not as easy as you think it is, or it was not something that I set out to do or wanted to do. It happened the way it did.
It's incredible how things evolve. Like, I guess
Yeah.
it's in my generation, not that you're a different generation, but in my generation, it's the way that people shunned the original Twitter insiders, and now it's like everything gets broken in a tweet. So, I mean, your Twitter's on fire.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you something that's amazing, and it's hard to imagine this, but it's true. I got hired at ESPN in April of 2009, and I did not yet have a Twitter account. They hired me. I never had a Twitter. I had zero social media followers when ESPN hired me. Zero, Aaron.
I should have bought that handle. Man, should have gotten that handle. But I assume then they hired you for that current hustle. But I think that a part of people's hustle is what's current, but also not. The people that got stuck with the newspaper are probably in a worse position than you right now, who listened to the people who said that television and TV networks and
I don't know how many people had the option to leave newspapers to go to work for TV. Like, when I was in Denver, I moved to Denver. I didn't know anybody. So literally, and it's funny how it works out, on the weekends, I would volunteer to do a TV segment for the local NBC affiliate. And I thought I would do it, number one, like, how cool would it be? You're a young single guy to be on TV. And I thought that would be attractive to women. And also, they would give me like $100 gift certificate to the men's store in town. So, like, it was like a double whammy. Like, I get a gift certificate, which I thought was the greatest thing, and I got to be on TV. And I go back and I look at some of those initial clips of being on TV, and it's remarkable how bad I was. Like, why would they put you on? Why would they allow you to stay on? Why would anybody watch this? And what really happened is, as I'm in Denver, not knowing anybody, not really knowing anything, and just immersing myself in my career and trying things, I was indirectly and unintentionally training myself for the future. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what was going on. I was doing TV for free, basically on the weekends, a spot, and you're doing one spot. And I tried to be so perfect about everything I did, but it was something new and something different. And, I couldn't believe, wow, you're on TV. Like, wow, what a cool thing. And so I just kept doing things because I didn't have any family or friends there, by and large. And all there was to do was work. So I threw myself into that. And, it was something that helped train me to get ready for the day when NFL Network did come along some 15 years later.
That is the definition of keep hustling. We have a couple minutes left. I have two more quick questions for you. The first is, you did mention that when you started on TV, you thought it would be good for attracting women. I would like to ask you about the philanthropy that you're involved in, because I know you're heavily involved in that, and that inspires me. Also, I'm a huge fan of your book, so I'd love to put it in the show notes, because I obviously have a deep connection to that. What drives you on the philanthropic end, and how do you make the hustle give back?
There are people that say, and I agree with this, and they're right, the more you give, the better it makes you feel. And at some point over time, the things that make you happy are giving back to others and seeing them succeed, and giving to charitable endeavors and giving your time to those sorts of things. it's a reminder of where you've come from. It's a reminder of how fortunate you are. It's a reminder that you can use your job to help try to improve the lives of others. And honestly, there's just a sense of a certain obligation to get things like that done. So that's where it comes from, I guess.
We ask our guests to leave us with their favorite inspirational or motivational quote. What is yours?
I used to love motivational quotes as a teenager and in college, and I still have some, written down on my computer now. I used to save files of them, and we could go through and there'd be a list of them. But I go back to one that I always think of, and it's something that I keep in my mind, and it's something that I wish I did a better job of practicing. But back when we were in college, and I was fretting about trying to land a newspaper job for the first time, there was a poem that my college roommates and I used to read called The Station. Have you ever heard of The Station, Aaron?
I have not, but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I carried it in my wallet, I believe. I might have a copy of it right here. Let's see if I still have it. I might have gotten rid of it and saved it, but if you look at The Station, the gist of it is that there's no one station that we arrive at once and for all, that the journey is the destination. And you're not trying to say, when I get my next job, I'll be happy. When I get married, I'll be happy. When I have children, I'll be happy. When I make more money, I'll be happy. You have to enjoy all the stops along the way. There's no one station that you arrive at once and for all. It's the destination. That's the journey. And that's where the joy should be found.
That is Keep Hustling. Adam Schefter, really, thank you.
Aaron, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Good luck with the podcast. And thanks for some thoughtful questions.
Thank you. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good, and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.